Well, hello and welcome back to the very latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, today I'm going to be talking to you about something very interesting, the topic of astrology and dating. Now, there are some people who will check their daily horoscopes every single day to decide how they're going to live, to get guidance. They will go to experts, they will get readings, and they won't do a thing unless their astrologer tells them to do it. Now, I'm open to this and I have my own little stories to tell, but to help me along the way, I've got a wonderful expert. I've got a dating and relationship astrologer, the wonderful Lucy Porter, here to talk to us and explain everything there is to know about astrology and spiritual dating. So, Lucy, welcome.
Hi, James. Nice to connect with you.
You too. You've made me laugh already before we've even started this. So if that comes across in the podcast, then wonderful, hopefully. And for those that are listening, I've got a slightly croaky voice. And if you think I'm doing a voiceover for M&S, that's probably why. But I've got a bit of a
You are
cold.
correct. He is.
I'm correct. I am doing that, yes. I'm signed
Yeah.
up for it. I've got a £2 million contract. But wonderful, Lucy. So we connected recently because you are a trained matchmaker and you help people with astrology and all sorts of wonderful things like that. So can you explain perhaps in more detail to my listeners who you are and what you do?
Okay, so my name is Lucy Porter, and I'm an astrologer who's particularly interested in love, sex, and dating. So I've been running my own one-to-one, my own business for about 4 years. And I noticed about 1 year in that all my clients were asking about the same thing. They were asking about relationships. So I began to explore how astrology can help people have the best relationships and find the best partners. So I shifted my business motive into love, sex, and relationships, and I've been doing it ever since.
Excellent. So you do readings, do you? Or you check charts? How do you do it?
So I get up a birth chart, which is basically a blueprint of the sky from the moment that you're born. And everybody has a totally unique birth chart. So if you were born half an hour later, your chart would be different. It's like a very specific piece of information. And it's basically like a map of behavior, a map of your character, if you want to look at it in a really sort of simple term. You can also call it a blueprint of your soul. And I fully believe that the birth chart is like your map in this life, your guide in this life to help you really understand what it is that you need, your gifts, your purpose, your wounds, your traits, and relationships too.
Where do you get these birth charts from? Is there a website? Is there a shop? Birth charts are us?
Love it. Yeah, birth charts for you. No. So there is websites, there is different types of like astrological, what's the word? Programs. So you can prep it online. You can do it online for free if you
Wow.
like, if you want a basic chart.
Okay. And I suppose everyone's will be slightly different based on the seconds and the minutes they were born. Is that right?
Everyone, unless you are like, you'd have to be born literally the same minute to have the same chart. It's so finite. It changes so easily. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot of detail must go into this then, and a lot of work.
Enormously. I'd love to show you one now because I think when people think of astrology, they think of horoscopes, 12 signs. How can it be relevant? If two people are Sagittariuses, what does that mean? And I totally agree. I mean, horoscopes are bollocks. They are back of
Yeah.
newspapers. They're never really that rooted in truth. But with a birth chart, you have so many different planets, more than just your sun sign, aspects, relationships, houses, transits. It's like an enormous piece of material. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's my concern about horoscopes themselves because many years ago when I was a young teenager, I started reading them and I thought this is so accurate. Everything that I'm reading in these things is so true. And it got to a stage I was guiding myself over a couple of weeks on this and I suddenly realised, hang on a minute, this can't quite be right. And a friend stepped in and said, "You're right, it's a load of rubbish." And
Mm.
there's no proof to this. And you're just believing the things you want to believe and ignoring the things that you don't. And even the other day, I went to see Darren Brown, who I'm a big fan of, and he starts the show off talking about horoscopes, and he pulls them up, all the Barnum statements, how things that apply to one person apply to everybody, and it was very interesting, and I enjoyed that. But there's also something I heard many years ago that there's actually 13 star signs rather than 12, and one was missed out. Have you heard anything about that, or is that a load of rubbish?
It's a load of rubbish, James.
Is it? Maybe I read that in News of the World or whatever it was years ago. I don't know.
I think that In a way, I mean, a lot of astrologers, we have this kind of love-hate relationship with horoscopes and sun signs. In a way, it's a good thing because it's really kind of commercialized astrology and made it accessible for people. But also, it's kind of distilled it to the point that people sort of think that it's shallow or not rooted in truth, you know.
What's the sun sign?
So your sun sign is the season that you're born in, the astrological season. So it's your personality, it is your light, it's what you're here to show the world.
Okay. So we're talking about matchmaking primarily today. That's what we do.
Yes.
We both help people in different ways and probably some similar ways as well, I imagine. So you are also a trained matchmaker, aren't you?
I am a certified matchmaker.
Certified by the lovely Caroline Brealey, who gets a mention in every podcast, every second podcast, because everyone is trained by her and she's wonderful. So do you find that really helps what you've learned there to make you a better matchmaker?
I found the course really interesting. I mean, last year I set out to do a matchmaking experiment where I put a call out on Instagram and I said, who wants to be matchmade completely blind just based upon your birth chart? And I had about 500 applicants. You know, people were really, they really wanted to be matched all over the world.
Men too?
So, men too. Yeah, men too. So I match-made 6 couples, just the 6 most compatible people of that 500, gay couples, straight couples. I had a non-binary couple. I did a real mix of different sort of gender identities and people from different countries. And I was really surprised about how, with no other information, not even pictures, I match-made some really successful couples. Some are still dating. And I thought to myself, okay, this kind of has some validity to it, you know. So I sought out to learn more, and that's how I met Caroline.
Wow, okay, that's really interesting. Because to get that many people that are also curious enough to do that is quite a good thing. But, okay, so how exactly, I don't expect you to tell me your entire matching process, but you're going through the charts, aren't you? You're working out if someone's compatible. What are you looking for primarily when you're doing that?
So you're looking only for a few things. I don't have to, you know, it's the moon sign is the most important thing. So everybody talks about the sun, but the sun is your ego, it's your personality. And everybody knows that when you're really dating someone, you have to drop your ego and kind of get a bit more vulnerable for anything to happen. So you look to the moon sign, and the moon sign is what I call the part of you that comes out when you move in with someone. So it's that hidden part that surprises you. I'm sure you know, you're nodding, that you can be so in love with someone, move in with them and be like, oh my God, you're a goblin.
Where are all these cushions coming from?
Yeah, what is happening? You know, you're filthy. So that's the moon sign. You can really see that kind of like shadow, hidden side of someone. And also the Venus and Mars signs, which, you know, that kind of cliche 80s book that women are from Venus, men are from Mars. Venus is like how we need to receive love, and Mars is how we want to assert love. So you can see a lot about what people really need in love and how their unique love language comes across through their Venus and Mars signs. So you could match people just based on that.
Wow, that's incredible. I read on your website that you do a lot of attachment styles and love languages and things, don't you, as well?
Yes.
Everyone talks about that. It's on my desk now, the attached book. Everyone mentions it.
I've got it right next to me as well, James.
Have you? I'm always showing it to my clients. It's just here. And it's one of the most common books that I use with my clients, and also the 5 love languages as well. Do you think that things like attachment styles can change and love languages can change, or are they fixed? To explain that in more detail, are they on your birth chart, and therefore can they be changed if it's really set in stone?
So it's like 2 separate questions, and I love them both. I think that attachment styles can definitely change because they are not set. They're just showing you where you're currently at in terms of your relational evolution, and they're there to change. They're there to ideally become secure. And your birth chart's the same. It's not a fixed marker of your character. It's a map showing you where you're at, where you have a little bit more confidence, where you need a little bit more inner work, and it's there to evolve and change. So yes, it can definitely change.
Okay. No, I agree with you as well. I think you can change. Love languages can change as well, depending on what you're getting from your partner, what you need at that precise moment. And you can have all the love languages. I don't think you necessarily are fixed to 1 or 2. I think you can have them all. I probably want them all. I'm quite greedy in life.
Yeah, you sound greedy as hell, James.
Do I? I do. I want them all. You can't be a dating coach without wanting them all. I think it's just, otherwise how can you understand them and help people with them? Which is great.
I know. Yeah, I mean, it changes. If you were my client and you said that, I'd put a little red red mark next to your name.
Would
Trouble.
you? Would you now?
No.
That's probably set in my birth my birth chart probably says that already. There's probably a red
Yeah.
mark around me saying trouble, watch out for this one.
Trouble.
He's not conventional. He's gonna go, he's a bit eccentric. Watch
Yeah.
out for him.
One to watch out for. Yeah.
One to watch out for. And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
No.
Okay, you said that to me. I'm gonna ask you a question now because we
Okay.
discussed this off camera briefly. I'm looking around your room and there's so many interesting, wonderful things you've got, and including a wonderful lamp that I thought might have been some sort of drinking device, but it wasn't. So let's start with your necklaces. You've got a key or something around your neck. What is that about?
So this thing here,
Yes.
you think is a key. This is a symbol of the goddess. So this is like
I know the bottom one, but it's the top one.
the top one. That is an L. That's
Oh,
an L
okay.
for
L.
Lucy. L
Oh,
for Lucy.
I knew the goddess symbol, but it's the L for Lucy. I thought it was a key.
A
So,
key.
a key. It looks like a key. Can you see how it's a key? Can you see
Not
that?
particularly, but I'm open to your vision, James.
Open to my vision. It is a key. It is a key for those that
I
can't
don't
see.
judge. I don't judge.
Don't judge. No, no. Maybe I do. No, I don't really. Of course not. And there's lots of wonderful things around you as well. And is that your own artwork that you did?
That is a piece of one of my paintings before. This is my office, so I like my office to be full of color and inspiring. Yeah.
That's important because everyone needs their own way to do that. Do you? What are your daily rituals that you do? When I say rituals, do you meditate before you? What do you do?
So I'm super normal, just because I matchmake and consult through astrology, I'm not like doing some wild ritual in a cave. I wake up, I go to the gym, I get a latte from Pret, I do my work, I do my thing, I watch a lot of dating shows. But
Do you?
of course, I mean, I think that was probably the origin of all of this. From about 11 years old, I was obsessed with dating shows.
Which ones in particular?
All of them. Married at First Sight, Celebs Go Date, even anything even kind of low, like even Love Island. I get into all of their astrology every year.
Do you?
Love is Blind, obviously.
Dating No Filter. There's loads and loads of dating shows and more coming out, but very few have any dating advice on them of any that's any worth. And I'm waiting for that show. And I've always done a lot of these shows myself over the years, and I've done a couple here and there. But I am fascinated by these shows as well. But there's now so many dating shows out there that it's really hard to watch them all, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a commitment, but I'm open to committing to that.
I know. I used to watch Love Island a lot. I used to be an official expert for OK Magazine and Hello Magazine, things like that, and back in Daily Star doing that. And I stopped it when my youngest son was born. My youngest son, the most recent one, and because it was so much time watching them. But maybe this year I'll get back into it again. Do you think that would be useful to them to know what's going to happen to them, what they need to do, or are they just going to be, do you know what? She's quite fit. I'm going to go for that.
I think that we live in a world that places so much emphasis on physical beauty. And I think it's really difficult for young people, especially people who don't fit this conventional stereotype of what is beautiful. That I wonder if they have a place, or if they feel lovable, or if they feel good enough. And I think that shifting the emphasis a little bit from how you look physically to your soul and what it is that you have to offer and your wisdom is imperative for people's mental health and relational health. I think that's where astrology can come in a really like tender, useful way.
Yeah, I remember the Undateable show. You must have seen that one.
Of course.
That was a great show. Don't think it's on anymore, is it? It's not being made. But that was a very powerful show. It just shows that anyone can find love. And it isn't just about looks. It's about personality. It's about intelligence, knowing what makes you special and sending yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
I think.
The thing I loved most about that show, it's just such a small thing, is when they did the 3 things that everybody loved. So they were like, Adam likes the sound of water trickling, hates bees. It was like these really niche things that he liked or someone liked. And I thought, God, everybody should have that, Did you remember that in the show?
I do remember that. That's true. It's like on the equivalent of Hinge profile. They should put 3 things on there. 2 truths from a lie I recommend quite a lot. But maybe the sound of water trickling. That's a great sound, actually, isn't it? Now you think about it.
It's a great sound.
That's one of my favourite sounds. Maybe the sea.
Me.
It's me. It's me. Hang on a minute. Adam and I would really get on. Maybe. What are your 3 favourite sounds? Put them in there.
What are my three favorite sounds?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
bizarre
I know.
podcast question, isn't it?
It's a really bizarre. Yeah, so I love the sound of rain, so cliche.
Yeah.
I love the sound of coming home and someone being there, like someone moving around a house.
Okay,
Le-
yeah, I get that.
yeah, I like the sound of leaves crunching. I tell you
Yeah.
what I can't stand is when you're trying to do a voice note to someone and it's really windy and all you can hear is wind.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's like my
Yeah, I get that.
that's like room 101. It like brings me rage, Red Ross.
That's it. I I have headphones on my phone, and the occasional time I've tried to make coaching calls or call my mum or somebody on them, walking along, I've had the same thing. It's just the wind. It doesn't have to be that windy, does it?
No, it doesn't have to be any wind.
It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be any wind. Voice notes. No, it just happens, isn't it? It's weird. It's like some sort of static going on. But I voice notes themselves are now becoming more popular with dating because people are using them on these dating apps,
Mm,
these filters and searches on there. And I even on Instagram, I've started leaving people voice messages rather than real messages. And I never used to do that, but I found that it's quite useful to get their attention. If I say, "Hi, this is James," maybe not in my croaky voice, but
or
generally it
maybe
works.
in your croaky voice.
Maybe very quick. Yeah, sure, yeah, maybe not. And so, do you think the voice notes are quite a good thing to use on dating apps?
I think that they are. I think that they are more intimate, connected. One thing that I have a bit of a pet peeve about, though, is starting with a voice note. I think that there's something quite commanding and demanding about making someone sit and listen to what it is that you have to say. They can't skim.
Yeah,
They can't. So it. I think they're great, but maybe after a few messages, text messages first. There has to be
yeah.
an establishing of connection first.
You're right. On people's profiles, they have the option to leave a voice note as the first prompt now. Many of these apps, and you're right. It's the first thing you do. You look at their picture and then you play their voice message. And you're right. You
Mm,
shouldn't be judging someone on their voice. You should probably read their profile first, and then
mm,
they should put the voice prompt at the bottom. So
yeah.
that's a good point. Actually, I agree with you there. I think
Mm,
phone calls are really useful to get to know someone if you meet them from a dating app before you do meet them in real life. But in the matchmaking world, we don't really encourage them to have lots of phone calls before they meet, do we? We think they just go
no.
out and just meet each other. Otherwise, they use that as a filter. I didn't like
Yeah.
his voice, and
Yeah. I
therefore,
didn't like his laugh. Didn't like how he breathed.
yeah, I didn't like it. He paused too long. He answered after the second ring. He was too keen. Well, this brings me on actually something that people do a lot, and it's the phrase of the year, I believe, and that's self-sabotage. I think
Mm,
people are self-sabotaging much more than ever before. Maybe it's a pandemic thing, but I think people are just doing it. I think it's because they're scared of rejection, and they are trying to protect themselves. Is that a trend that you've noticed or not?
yeah. I mean, I think that my fascination with relationships, it stemmed from my fascination with inner work. So understanding myself and my trauma patterns and the people around me. So I believe that they're intrinsic, right? Relationships and some inner work. You can't avoid yourself in relationship.
Yeah.
And I think you're right that there's been 2 years of a pandemic, a lockdown, pardon me. I think people are scared of rejection. They're scared of commitment now, and because they don't quite know when it could be taken away. So it doesn't surprise me people are self-sabotaging. And wouldn't it be great if there was a dating service that could hold people in their vulnerability and in their expansiveness, and that was okay. You know,
Yeah,
that was okay.
I agree. It doesn't really exist, though, does it? In that way,
Not yet,
like,
James.
you're working on it, aren't you? You're working on it.
Yeah, yeah, plugging away.
Yeah. There's so many different apps that are springing up every week though in the dating world, and some of them there is one called Spiritual Singles, but they're not amazing. I think it's a very American thing. Have you seen much in the UK in terms of any sites or companies that focus on that?
Yes, I mean, there over the past year, I mean, astrology has really kicked off. I mean, when I first started offering astrology 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, people were like, cool, okay. But now, all those people who sort of wrote it off are now coming for readings. It's like really taken this, I think, with
Yeah.
Instagram and with TikTok, it's become huge, especially with like the young generations. So and there's lots of people popping up wanting to use a bit of astrology or a bit of spirituality. But in my total honesty, I don't think that apps are the way forward for relationships. Not really. I think they're fun. I think they're great for dating, and for 5% of people, I think they end up in a fantastic relationship, but generally on the whole, not.
I would agree with you, but I'd like you to elaborate on that a little bit and tell me why not.
Because we live in a world which is full of options, and back in the day, you made a relationship work for better or worse, sometimes for much worse. I think people perhaps should have broken up, but it now feels like there's always something better, there's always someone hotter, there's always someone younger, there's always something. And I think apps take advantage of that tendency in human beings, and to an extent exploit it, because there's always someone else. You can always swipe, there's always another option. And I think it can bring out a part of the human character which isn't maybe that kind or intentional.
Yeah.
So they're fun, don't get me wrong. Back in the day, when I was a single gal, definitely had my fun on the apps. But yeah, it lacked some depth for me.
It does. I agree with you. I think for some people it can work, but for a deep and meaningful connection, it's very hard to get that based on 2 photographs and a couple of lines of text. So they are a tool. If you're starting out dating and you're new to this and you want to go and explore, absolutely give it a go. But
Great.
there's not anything out there that's in any great depth, and there should be. I remember being involved about 4 years ago with a startup dating app, which is all about the law of attraction and positive thinking and all these things. It was a great idea. And I got paid a lot of money at the time to help them write the questions and the starter things. It never launched. And I don't want to rock the boat by asking them what happened to them. I think it would have launched by now if it was going to happen. But I thought that was great. I thought there was a lot of people out there that want something a bit more and a bit deeper for a connection. But if you want that, I think personal matchmaking is probably the way forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think personal matchmaking is really cool. And that's why a lot of these dating shows where people are match made, they're so successful, because people love to see, wow, is there really someone for everyone? Or, oh my God, it's so exciting. The only issue is, I think that just from my experience of it, it's quite exclusive and it's difficult to access matchmaking. A lot of young people, I wonder if they would be drawn to it. So I think there needs to be an in-between, right? Between this exclusive one-to-one, very tailored, amazing service, which is matchmaking, and then completely accessible free apps. What's the middle ground?
The middle ground would be a paid for service run by matchmakers that it does involve an element of having a profile on an app, but the matchmakers run it for you. That's what I believe would happen. And you can't really say no to people either. I think, because that's the problem. People say no all the time. Don't like him, don't fancy him. Maybe there's no pictures. Some agencies don't show you pictures nowadays, and that can be an interesting thing. And
what do you think about that?
Good question. People always ask me that question, and it used to be, it was my job to sort of sell it in a positive way, and I can see the pros and cons, but I've come to believe that it is a good way of doing it, because some people do not take good pictures, and you should not be judging somebody on a picture, because it could be filtered, it could be from a different angle, and you can't tell. If someone doesn't smile in the picture, then they don't know that, but they can come across the wrong way. I think if you're paying a matchmaker thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars, you've got to trust them. And it shouldn't just be about how hot they look in one particular picture.
I agree. I totally agree. Also, a lot of it's pheromones. I mean, I'm sure you know this from, whenever, that you can see a photo of someone and think, nah. And you meet them and maybe something about the way they smell or the way they walk, you think, oh no, you're kind of hot. Like, what the hell? It's your pheromones. It
is. It's also because people are attracted to different things. People are attracted to sense of humour, to power, to money, to being good with animals, good with kids. Just being comfortable in their own skin, self-love, all these things. But you're right, it is. I saw something the other day on Instagram. This just used to exist 25 years ago. It was like pheromone aftershaves and pheromones perfume. I don't think they've even captured it to this day properly. They haven't been able to do this. But people are still selling it and they're marketing it. I mean, there was one, I think it was called Matchmaker. It was called that. And it was a new pheromone perfume.
Perfect.
But I want to find out. They follow me on Instagram. I want to find out more about what they're doing, because it intrigues me. Because there are companies out there. Do these work? Can you buy that? Can you manufacture it? I don't really know. But if you could you just imagine if you could just spray yourself with some pheromone perfume and everyone's going to love you? But
yeah, fuck.
That would be amazing life, wouldn't it? To have
I think it would be complicated. I don't know if it sounds amazing.
It would be. Yeah, you're right. Some people just don't need to have that. They just have that natural confidence about them. But if you could help it along the way. But I think you're right. It would confuse people because you look at them. I don't really fancy them. Or yes, I do. Before in love with them. Be like,
I'm in
so,
love with them.
I'm in love with them. What's going? I imagine a world where everyone fell in love with you straight away. That'd be quite a weird world. It'd be awful, wouldn't it? Because you'd be disappointing people every day, wouldn't you? It's quite a lot.
It also might feel really lonely because authentically, do they actually love you, or are you just sprayed in this pheromone? You may feel like a liar and then die of loneliness.
I'm sure, yes, that's true. I'm sure I saw a film about this. Some sort of magic spell, everyone fell in love. What was that?
Yeah, I know this completely. I can't remember what it's called.
Love Potion number 9, was that one of them? That springs to mind. It wasn't that one, but there was something else like that, I think. But yeah, this is all interesting. I'm sure someone will bring this out one day. That'll be the most amazing thing. But a lot of these apps do have they have star signs on them still, don't they, as well?
Yeah, I think, and that's great. But you don't fall in love with someone based upon sun sign. I would never dream in a million years of matching two people based upon their star sign, because that's not what you relate upon. So
no, I agree.
It's fun.
What's your star sign?
My sun sign, because there's actually no such thing as a star sign.
Okay.
Doesn't exist. My sun sign is Aries.
Okay, so you would have a partner who's Pisces. Is that right?
Yeah, you know that from my website.
I do. I wonder if you know that. All right, yes. That would go one of two ways. Either you know what I'm talking about, or you'd be completely bewildered that I knew that. So, but I did tell you I checked your website out again before we did this session. But I've amused myself now, which is always good. So yes, I was trying to get that one in there. But
you've got it in. Congrats, well done.
I've crowbarred that one into that. So I'm going to ask you another question now.
Yeah.
If someone is now newly single and they want to meet a new partner, what steps would you recommend that they take over the next couple of weeks to try and make that happen?
Great question. So firstly, I would check their chart and I would have a look at their moon and their Venus placement. So I would look at their magnetic energy, their feminine energy. And I would see about their capacity to attract, if they have to assert themselves, if they have to put themselves somewhere, or if they have a natural magnetism, like what's stronger in their chart. So if they had a natural magnetism, I would encourage them to go to places where they feel lit up and be in that space and begin to take up space and magnetize. However, some people, their charts aren't that magnetic. They don't seem to receive super well. They're better when they put themselves out there and introduce themselves to someone. Mm-hmm. So I would ask them to write a list of all the things they would love in a partner. I would make them write about where they would go and what they would do, where they would spend their time. Would they be on apps? Would they not be on apps? And begin to feel into, well, where would this person be? How would I meet this person? So they would begin to assert themselves slightly more. Yeah,
I'd agree. That's great advice. You have to have an idea what you're going to aim towards, don't you, and how you're going to do this, and then set yourself a challenge each day to try and do something. But I think real world is often a good place to meet people as well, and getting out of the house. People don't do that, and people have been scared to do that for obvious reasons. But there are all sorts of meetup groups out there. If you are maybe someone thinking a bit more openly about the world, there are plenty of meetups and talks and funding events and all these things you can go to, and you'll meet someone like-minded as well, which is always useful.
I mean, I would say that when you are doing something that you love, you are magnetic, right? When you're feeling good in yourself, you're magnetic, and that's the times in your life where you meet a partner when you're feeling really confident. So it's always bringing people back to their own confidence, their own unique thing. If you don't like going to bars, don't go to bars to try and pick up someone up. You won't be feeling good in yourself. There's no point. Maybe you like rock climbing. You'll probably end up meeting a babe there for some reason. So I think it's really bringing people back to their own unique soul and going from that place, being authentic.
You're right. You can't force things. I have lots of guys come to me and say, I want to learn how to talk to women on the street or in bars and these sort of things. I thought, you haven't even tried online dating yet. You can't talk to anybody. You haven't got the confidence for that yet. All you're going to do is get rejected because you haven't got the self-love or the self-worth to start with. So you've got to do things that you enjoy and genuinely enjoy. If you like Dungeons and Dragons, whatever it might be, go and do a Dungeons and Dragons club. It doesn't matter. Go and do something like that, or go and do tennis, or whatever you're interested in, or go to the gym. But you're absolutely right. Authenticity is key, and authenticity is sexy as well, because people are going to respect that.
It's true. I think this is a powerful thing to realize, is that you don't have to be anybody else to be super attractive and have an amazing partner. You don't have to look a certain way, do a certain thing, or act a certain way. You just have to be real.
You do. It can be hard for people if they've had a recent breakup or something's gone wrong to look back and think, well, they feel a bit damaged and they feel that they've got lots of healing to do. Do you think that it's a good idea to get started straight away, or to give it a break, or do something else?
I think that having a break is kind of actually imperative, because otherwise you can repeat patterns, right? You can bring one hurt and bring it into another relationship, project that onto a new person. I think it's super important to assimilate and process a relationship, your part in it and their part in it, so that you can choose slightly different next time.
That's great advice there. Thank you, Lucy. So I think we are going to round things off a bit now, because we are at the half an hour point. I want to keep talking to you, but I realise you're really busy. So one quick question as well. Do people get to see their own charts? Do you send them a copy of it, or is it an email to them? How does it work?
Yeah, so during the session, I share the screen, I share their chart, and I'm talking through the whole chart. I'm showing them what I'm talking about, so it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. If someone wants to find out more about you and wants to get you to do a chart for them, or find out more about what you do, how do they do that?
So you can head to my website, lucy-porter.com, and you can contact me through there. I would love to connect with you and show you your soul and find you your soulmate. I'd love it.
Excellent. The world definitely needs more of that right now, don't they? So
yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Lucy. Have a great rest of the day, and then we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.
Thank you, James. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespriest.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.